Anyways, I just want to welcome everybody as you're coming in. We'll just give you another minute. Thanks for sharing where you're zooming in from. We really appreciate it. And I just want to say that the first thing I'd like to start out with is a land acknowledgement. I'm here in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. And here we like to acknowledge the land that we are on, which was unceded. It was not given in any kind of treaty or territory. So I'm here. I live, work, and play on the beautiful lands of the Tsleil-Waututh, Musqueam, and Squamish people, and they've been the guardians and caretakers of this land for centuries. So I appreciate the opportunity to come as an uninvited settler to them. So I encourage you to go to native-land.com and see whose land that you're on, that you're living on these days. So you just have a deeper understanding of the lands from before you. Well, today we are here with John Lepp and Rachel as well, who we're going to be talking about just having a direct mail conversation. John is a wonderful expert on direct mail. He's written a book. Where is that darn book? Here it is, called Creative Deviations. I recommend this to so many people if they're looking to step up their game on direct mail. There are so many amazing examples, thoughts, ideas that you can take that will really strengthen what you're sending out. Rachel is also a direct mail expert, and she is with Pen with a Purpose. And we're really appreciative of having you here, helping navigate and answer some of the questions. For those of you who know me, and we're on my list, I really wanted to make sure that you had an opportunity to either better your direct mail game if you've already started your letter. How many of you are actually just getting going on or haven't yet gotten going, which is fine, on your either end of year letter or your fall letter? Maybe put getting started, finished, or...
That's good too. That's good.
Yeah, that's right. You missed the name of the book. There you go, Kim. Creative Deviations. It's on Amazon. Now, John, is it a bestseller in the category of nonprofit bookaroonies or something? I forget.
Yes, it is. But I'm not here to talk about books. I'm here.
Okay.
I'm here to help our friends and colleagues across the sector with their year-end appeal, if they wish it. And so do you mind if we just get going? Is that cool?
Get going. Yep.
All right. So that's what this is about. Beth and I both are very passionate fundraisers. We've been doing this for a long time. We have a desire to help our friends and colleagues and ourselves do our work better. And so we thought, let's have a conversation about year end that would apply to your quote unquote normal donors, to your mid-level donors, to even your major donors. Let's get everyone involved in our year end asks, mostly through direct mail. I'm a direct mail nerd. I'm a direct response and direct marketing nerd. But again, I've been doing direct mail for 25 years. So that's why we decided to do this. We thought we'd have a conversation and more importantly, open it up to anyone who wants to come on this call and ask their own questions. So at the end of it, we'll try to keep it brief. At the end, we'll have all the time in the world to answer all the questions we possibly can until everyone is exhausted and just either go to the washroom or just go home or do whatever everyone needs to do. So I'm going to start off with a couple things. First of all, I want to acknowledge a few realities in this world for our donors and for ourselves. Here in Canada, I'm in Canada, just like Beth is and like Rachel is. Here in Canada, we have about 86,000 charities across the country. And I always talk about Dale, because Dale is everyone's donor. Even if she's in the US, where you have 1.5 million charities competing for her attention, she is your donor. And this time of year in Canada, she can get between 30 to 40 mail appeals every single week. If she's in the US and it's the holidays, she could be getting between 30 to 40 a day. Okay, so that's a big thing to acknowledge. That's what you're up against. I don't care how amazing your brand is or anything. You have to acknowledge your competition because that's what you're trying to do. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit. And I think I will pass the mic over to you, Beth, and let you, Beth, we both have three key things we want to discuss. Obviously, it's not all the things we can discuss, but three key things we want to share. So Beth, I'll let you go first.
Yeah. So just to introduce myself, Beth Ann Locke, my business is the Fundraiser Coach, and I tend to work with more nonprofit charities in a holistic way, but also working to build major gifts. So in terms of major gift fundraising and doing direct mail, I want to talk about how you can engage your major gift donors by considering asking them to match your direct mail appeal. Now, I have people who are doing those kinds of asks now for an appeal that will happen later. It's how one of the boards I'm on is doing their match for their direct appeal. So in this way, what you want to do is segment your major donors or your mid-level and major donors and ask them to be engagers of other donors in the charity and make an ask. You should know what you're hoping to match. So what did you do last year, or set a figure of, I don't know, 40,000, 20,000. I've also done this with a single donor, but to engage many donors, you would ask them through your leadership giving to Charity X, we would love to have you make a commitment now that will encourage others to give. It's a fantastic way to help donors who are already truly committed to you to feel like they will bring others aboard by doing a match. You can do this with, phone appeal. You could do it with an email, though I don't think that's as effective, or you could actually mail them and ask them to respond either with a direct piece back or in a phone call with you. So that's my number one tip, to engage your major gift donors and have them feel great about the direct mail that is going out to your other prospective donors. You want to hear all three? I forget if I'm doing all three in a row. My second idea, because we're all merging these up and we're personalizing, we're making them have their names in the letters, etc. Oh, some of you may be writing, dear friend, please don't do that. Please personalize your mail. But when you're working with your to send out direct mail, if you're not doing face-to-face conversations with your major gift or your mid-level donors, I encourage you to do something that will personalize that. It could be that you pull back, don't send to the mail house. Some of your letters, you do them in-house so they can be signed. I've done things like say thanks so much to a letter that's already put together with my own pen so that it looks like it's been touched by human hands, like I like to say. There's the traditional thing of crossing out a formal salutation and writing in another one that takes a little more time. Anything where when you're sending a direct mail appeal or that kind of letter to your major gift donors, you want to make it more personalized. Often your major gift donors want to feel a deeper connection to, or believe they have a deeper connection, and sending them just a typical direct mail package is not going to increase that feeling of connection. So that's my second tip.
And I would add on
Yes.
to that. That's something we recommend charities try to do in every single appeal they do. You take your top 20% of your donors, not necessarily just by their wallet size, but if they're loyal donors, if they're monthly donors, legacy donors, and the more you can fulfill that mailing in-house, like get the shells printed at the printer, but bring them in-house and print them off on your laser printer, do your own reply forms. It's not high design stuff, it's the high touch stuff. And
That's right.
for those donors, and the more you do it over and over again, yes, it's labor intensive. Yes, it's going to take some extra time. Yes, I know you're strapped for time. It is a capacity conversation, but the more you can do that with your own hands, I 100% guarantee your results will absolutely go through the roof. 100%.
Yeah, the ladder of asking, especially when you're getting into bigger gifts, is starting with a personal ask, like face-to-face or voice-to-voice. But for smaller nonprofits, and I know some of them here are working on this, you really need to make sure that not that major gift donors feel more special, but that you're nurturing that relationship. I would put it like that you're working to nurture those relationships. My third one, and I do have a little slide for this, so excuse me while I go to my slide, is addressing the, I need to put this in this mode. Addressing the 3 psychological needs for your donors. So I've taken the donor psychology certificate, which I think was really fantastic. But These three kinds of ideas and phrases you might use are really important. So the ideas are around autonomy. People, including donors, we're going to be talking about donors here, but all people want to have a feeling of autonomy. That is, I'm making the choice that I want to make instead of going along with a crowd or something like that. They also want to feel that they're doing the right thing, which we talk about as competence, that people feel like, I invested in this charity, or I made a gift to this charity, and in fact, what they said would happen. Or I had 12 charities to give to, and I felt like when I chose this one to give to, I was doing the right thing. And connectedness is the other concept. Connectedness, which is, we talk about helping people feel connected. There are lots of ways people can feel connected. So people can feel connected to beneficiaries. I want to support the dogs because nobody else can speak for them, or cats. I just don't want to divide the webinar. I'm connected to really important people who are supporters like me, or I love that leader, which you might have in a faith-based organization. So there are a lot of ways that you can help people feel connected. Now, where are my, there we are. So I just giving a few little phrases just to have you see. So you could use a phrase around autonomy. When you choose to support charity X, families like the Covals will have a better life in Canada. When you give to charity X, you're making the right choice to ensure a better life for newcomers in Canada. This would talk a little more to competence. And when you make a gift to charity X, you're joining a group of people dedicated, blah, blah, blah. So when you look at what you're writing, you may be able to just tweak some of what you have when you come to the point of talking about the gift that can help people feel better about their choices and actually satisfy their own self-identity, the whole thing around that. But have you taken the course, John?
I have not, no.
Oh, it's good. But anyway, so you might think about these: autonomy, competence, and connectedness, and using them in your connected thank you letters as well. So there we go.
Very good. Thank you, Beth.
Do you want me to hold all the questions till the end, guys? Or do you
I see Gloria said use all three. You don't have to use all three. I mean, you could throughout a letter, but I gave you the same type of idea with the different nuances. So you don't have to use all three in a letter. Of course, if you can put them in, that is helpful to getting what you would like. So are there other questions that relate?
Yeah, there was just one about the asking major donors for matching gifts, if that was relatable to individuals or just businesses.
Oh, no, I would actually, I'm only talking about individuals, although you may have a business or corporation that is very close to you, one that you have a strong relationship with where that business might want to match. I personally have only done that with individual donors. Often with our corporate donors, we have them kind of pegged around not always with events, but different kinds of giving, so sponsorships, etc. But if you have, Charlotte, if you have a business that would be happy to do that, I say go for it. You don't want to cannibalize other giving, or cannibalize isn't very nice. You don't want to take away from other fundraising you might do, but you, if that's an opportunity to have that business feel closer to you, go for it.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Should I do my three?
I think you should do your thing.
Yeah, then we can dive into it.
Okay, cool. And yes, keep the questions coming. I know, fortunately for us, Rachel is fantastic at keeping track of all these things. I can't keep track of anything, including my points. Okay, my points are, okay, number one is I want to talk about the idea of doormat dominance. This is, I think, coined by my friend Derek Humphreys in the UK. You want to dominate your donor's mailbox, or in the UK, their doormat. And how can you do that? I'm a designer and a writer and a strategist, but I think about in design sense, how can I make sure that when my donor goes to her mailbox or goes to her doormat, the first thing she wants to look at is my mailing. And so I'm constantly, I work with brilliant writers like Rachel Zant here, like my business partner, Jen Love, and many others. And I have to make sure I do my very best so the donor can get to their letter and do what I need them to do. And so I'm always thinking about how can I dominate their mailbox. And so I have one quick example I want to show you. I pulled out, I have tons of mailings from my mother-in-law, Dale, and I pulled out one example that she got. Here's a recent example that she got. And this is a very typical mail appeal in North America. Number 10 white envelope, logo in the top corner, and a tagline that doesn't, is that reversed? Is it backwards?
No.
It basically says, a guide dog makes our dreams possible. Good. Amazing. That's fantastic. So I'm going to pull out this envelope, and then I have this example, which is an envelope that Dale also could get. So ask yourself, I want you to ask yourself, if you went to your mailbox and pulled out these two mailings, which one would you open first? I know which one you would open first because we'd all open this one first. But why is that we all do this? And it's really important to know that the more you can make your mail look like this in some sort of fashion, I'm telling you, the more effective it's going to be. So that's one big point. We already talked about with Beth's idea around doing a more hand touch pack for your best donors, for your 20%, top 20% of donors. You're getting 80% of your revenue from these people anyway. So spend the extra time and effort. Postage is something I love to play with. Postage is probably, after envelope size, the next most important thing you play with. The more stamps you can put on your envelope, the better. So don't think of it just as a first-class postage. Do those little one-set stamps, whatever you want. The more visualness in that sort of postage area is really going to help your envelope get opened. And the idea of being a good charity, I'm sure some of you can only do one mailing a year, maybe two, maybe three. But for all of you, this is a really, really important time of year. If you're doing only one mailing, it's very, very difficult, regardless of how good you are and how good your mission is and how good you talk to your donors and to say thank you. It's really competitive. And so you can always do one more mailing. Again, it's easy for me to say, but always try. If you're only doing two, try to do three. If you're doing three, try to go to four. This is something, it's a strategic conversation that can be had, but you really want to build in mail that acknowledges who your donor is and the importance of them to your organization. Mm-hmm. Which leads me to my sex point. Second point. Come on, we've all done that. And that's around the idea of what are you asking me for? So there's two things I want to leave you with. And one is George Smith talks about asking for one thing. George Smith was a fundraiser from the UK, wrote a great book called Asking Properly. My friend Jonathan Grafsis on Australia talks about what's your SMIT? What's the single most important thing that I'm asking you to do? And I see a lot of mail packs, especially in my coaching. I see a lot of mail packs that don't get around to asking for anything. And so every single direct mail pack, every piece, every fundraising piece, online or offline, that you send to donors has to ask for something specific. So the example I always share is a very classic direct response offer, which is give us $7 now or the dog gets it. The reason why this is a classic direct response offer is because it's really clear what the problem is, which is this dog is going to get it. It tells you what the solution is, which is your $7 will make sure the dog doesn't get it. It tells you what we need you to do, which is give us $7. And it's urgent. If I don't give that $7 now, the dog is, going to get it. So every single mail appeal you do, every single appeal, online or offline, should have some form of that kind of offer. It has to, because it's really easy for the donor to understand why you're asking for money and what it's going to do. So that's important. The last thing I want to talk about with offer is scale your offer. If I'm a $5 donor or a $500,000 donor, the problem I can solve is much different. So you need to scale the problem and sometimes change the problem. So back to Beth's point about doing a special appeal for major high mid-level donors and ask them to create a matching gift program, that's something that they can solve. That's a problem they can be a part of and help do for you. But a $50 donor, I don't know that they're going to climb on board the idea of giving $50 as a matching gift. It seems incredibly low, right? So think about your offer, think about segmentation, and think about scalability.
Yeah. So somebody asked, going back to me talking about the match, it was Charlotte. one of the Charlottes, how would you communicate this in a letter? And I said, you would want to say something like, your gift will be matched 2-to-1, or your gift will be doubled. And sometimes those are on the outside of the envelope. Sometimes it's on the inside. Those kinds of, everybody likes to leverage their giving. If they can multiply their giving, it psychologically, people just like to give more. And even though you as the charity are actually the one getting the extra money done. So John, tell me, do you like those things on the outside? To me, I like envelopes that are more personal looking versus corporate looking. I'm not actually a fan of the window envelope, though I know it saves time and money.
Mhm.
Tell me a little more about that.
That's a really big question, and I'm running out of time to move through my points.
Go to your next point, please.
No, it's fine. I'll try to answer it. I mean, the bottom line is it's the kind of conversation around taglines. For what you're talking about, hopefully Rachel's okay. For what you're talking about, Beth, in terms of like coming with a matching gift mailing sort of thing, that should seem very personalized. You know what I mean? It should go in an oversized envelope. Definitely should be handwritten. I'm Beth, I'm mailing you today. Obviously, you know who I am. What we're trying to do is create a matching gift program for our donors, and you can be a massive part of this. Please, what we're asking for is X number of dollars, and you'll join 3 others like you to create this matching gift program. It's something like that. Do you know what I mean? So, but very personalized in a general sense. Yes, I know from testing, the best ever envelope usually is not a number 10 envelope. It's almost anything other than that. And most in testing, usually just a logo and return address is the best envelope. And I know that everyone asks about taglines all the time, or including photographs. Should we do this? Should we add it? And lots of people do. And I'm just saying, well, like if you look at my stuff, someone called me on this one time. Someone says, well, everything you've shown me today in this presentation has a tagline on it. And it is an art form. This tagline of a guide dog makes their dreams possible. This isn't what I would call a spectacular, high-performing tagline for lots of reasons that we get into if we really wanted to. But we're trying to find something. If I'm going to put a tagline on it, I just did an envelope for a charity this morning, actually, and the letter was written by a fellow who, it's a long story. Anyways, I included just an image of a coffee stain mark, which I haven't done for a while, but every so often I use, because the letter is very personal. And he talks about, I'm putting down my coffee to write to you today. And so I really wanted to play that. It's provocative. It's like, what's going on here? I think I got him to handwrite whoops beside it, like he spilled his coffee on the envelope. So it's a little whimsical, but this is a craft. It's a lot of work. So you're right. Closed face is better than an open face, Beth. And I'm sure people will have more questions. I have a feeling there's questions coming in, so we can address very nitty gritty questions, I suppose, as we move through.
And John, I just want to point people, I just put your website up here. There are so many wonderful, wonderful examples that you can take a look at. I've had so much respect for you, John. We met quite a while ago on Twitter, and then met in person, and we've been connecting at conferences. But your work has that important connection-based work versus just transaction-based. So go and look. You can buy the book if you want, but go and look at their website, and you'll just be,
Thank you.
There you go. I can't. I guess I haven't upgraded my Zoom. So I'm just going to say that we promise to have sort of 30 minutes of content and open it up for you to ask questions. So Rachel, is there anything you want to add, or John, did you get through all 3 points?
I went into my 3 points.
Oh my God. Thank you.
My last point, and then absolutely it's important. It is
important. I beg your pardon.
That's the point too, because I know we're running time. So the last point I had was about the importance of storytelling. Rachel, I loved your posts the other day on LinkedIn about perspective, and that, there was acknowledgement by yourself at a young age of what I'm seeing is only capable by me. And that gave you a sort of it was ground shaking for you at that time. And the idea of perspective and point of view is so important. Something that as a storyteller, I love to play with perspective, because when I change the perspective, if I know we know what the common issue is for our charity. If a child explains what the problem is for your charity versus an adult versus a dog versus a table versus a whatever, the perspective, the way they share the stories, can be dramatically different. So I'd like to change that perspective. How can you use a different voice? And that was part of, Rachel, your point. There's more voices to your organization than just your stupid ED. I'm sure they're brilliant and lovely, but not stupid either. I'm just saying, we'll go further than that? You can make the ask. You can have other people, beneficiaries, volunteers, program staff, use the collective voices through your appeals online and offline all the time. So I'm going to leave one creative exercise. If you kind of like, this is a creative exercise that I'd like to tell people to think about. Sometime in the next couple of days, as you're working on your appeal, if you wish, pour yourself a glass of wine. And what I want you to do is sit down and imagine this. Imagine that Santa Claus is writing your appeal to your donors. And think about, how would he explain what the problem is, how he feels about the problem, and what he's asking you to do. So I'll share a quick little example with you. We did a pack years ago for this organization called CARC, which is awful to say. And CARC stands for the Canadian Arctic Resource Committee. And so it was a bunch of scientists protecting caribou at the Northern Pole. So we had Santa Claus write the letter, and Santa Claus was angry. Like, he was upset because these dumb oil tankers were smashing up on his shoreline. They were spilling their oil and stuff all over the place. His caribou and reindeer were getting sick. And he was asking these donors of CARC to help him do something about this. We don't like to see angry Santa, but that's what made it so effective. The organization was absolutely terrified of this approach because they were smart, intelligent scientists. The mailing raised more money than they'd ever raised because we'd taken a totally different voice. And also we introduced an element of lightness to it. Even though he was angry, it still had an element of lightness because we used that perspective. So I'm suggesting you try it as a creative exercise. No one needs to approve it. No one needs to see it. You can crumple it up and burn it at the end of the time once you're done writing it. I would love to see it if you do it. So please feel free to email it to me. But try using your creative brain, which you all have. Try using your creative brain. Play with this. Have some fun with this. There's no judgment. There's no judgment in the scenario. But I'm asking you, in your normal work, what are some of the perspectives you can try? Even Santa Claus, which I've used 3 or 4 times through my career to write letters. Think about how you can use other voices to share your stories and your problems with your donors. That's my 3rd tip.
All right, I'm going to just recap my 3 of what they were. So asking major donors for a matching gift, personalize as you can, and the 3 phrases that respond to people's need for their own identity and well-being, which are including ideas of competence, connectedness, and autonomy. John, you want to recap yours quick?
How do you dominate your donor's mailbox? How can you very specifically ask your donor for them to do something and make sure they understand what their giving will do? And storytelling, how can you use a totally different voice in any appeal moving forward that will, again, let your donors just, again, hear the problem they're familiar with in a completely different way, different perspective.
Great. I'm just putting our emails in.
Cool.
Email for me. So
do you want me to jump in?
I put yours in. We are then done with this part. We will continue recording, but if you just wanted to get the meat, you've got the meat, and now we're going to have all the other good parts of the sandwich. John, do you want to scroll through some of the Q&A?
Rachel, you have something you want to add?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I was just going to start. I could ask you guys some of the questions if you want, or if you guys want to just go ahead and go through them. The only thing I would add is that the suggestion that you made at the very beginning, Beth, that idea of approaching major or even mid-level donors to be a part of a matching campaign worked really well when I was at the BC SPCA, and they would do that. They would send a direct mail campaign to their mid-level donors and say, would you join with others and be a part of inspiring other donors to give, and together you will do so much more, sort of idea. And it was really effective. So I just wanted to mention that.
That includes that connectedness and also sort of the autonomy you can choose to inspire others. So right. I really love that. Mm-hmm. So, all right. I'm gonna just, I guess, Dan, who we know, Dan Hanley, says our biggest fundraising campaign is in October for domestic violence awareness. Do we still do a year-end appeal?
Yes, Dan, and I think it might be being cheeky. Yes, I mean, the holidays, the last 3 months of this year are monumental for most organizations, but even more so December, especially. Donors are sitting down with their checkbooks and are feeling very gracious and want to feel good about themselves and the work they want to help you with. Absolutely, just because you do a fall appeal, we have to realize sometimes you introduce appeals or a new appeal into the cycle, and yes, one could do gangbusters, and it may take away from the one you do next. That's a normal kind of thing, and that's okay. I mean, you're trying to measure the bottom line of all your channels at the end of the year. It's not about like, we're going to scrap this mailing appeal because it bombed. Not necessarily. Don't just assume because it didn't get a good result, it bombed. It's still part of the conversation, and that's what you're having with donors, this conversation. So yes, you do your October mailing, and it does amazing, Dan, like the best of all time. Maybe if you do a holiday one, it won't have the same amount because donors just did something very important. But yeah, that's my quick advice.
I do work for, sorry, can I just jump in?
Go.
I mean, I write for some organizations, they do a fall appeal, holiday, then a year end follow-up, and then they still do 5 or 6 emails at the very end of the year. So, donors are used to getting a significant number of appeals. And if you're not doing that, then you may actually be just being forgotten. So I think it's really important.
So one thing I've been advising my clients who tend to be a little bit, mid-sized to smaller charities is to get your appeal out a little earlier this year. I think that there has been a lot of hesitation for people who are doing what I would call checkbook giving, which is kind of the smaller gifts giving at the end of the month, that there have been a lot of economic pressures. For larger donors, I also have felt like they've been quite hesitant, waiting for the market to even out, wondering, kind of how things will balance out. And so for larger gifts, they've been asking themselves the question, can I give what I've been giving to all the charities that are most important to me? Or am I going to have to reduce or choose amongst those? Do you guys agree with that? I've been telling people to try to get like 2 weeks ahead of even what they've been doing last year.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're going to go into your mailbox 2 weeks later than you intended, it just better be really, really good. That's all. The later you get, the more competition you get. I don't think there's a simple answer. Do you know what I mean? Like the do one is better. Giving has been strange this last year and a half. COVID was so exceptional for giving. Everything we've seen across our work and from other people I've talked to at agencies and consultants, it's been a tough year for some charities. And again, that's why some of these we talk about are so important. There is an edge you can gain here, through gratitude, through different kinds of storytelling, if you wish to choose it. But, based on my mother-in-law's mailbox, people are not choosing to do anything more than the bare minimum. And it's sad for me because there's so much, the bar is extremely low. So if you're willing to try some different things, things that we're suggesting, it could make a massive difference in your appeal.
Yeah. I have a question here in the chat that I can't paste into the Q&A. So Catherine's saying, and I know, John, you've dealt with this with the Humber folk, and I've dealt with it at a university for sure. How do you battle the endemic conservatism within an organization to try to convince a CEO or senior management to go with an other voice?
It's a really quick. I'm actually more fascinated by just the little pop-ups here in the chat about people not reading 4-page letters. Which I'll tell you, I can tell you first and foremost, 4 pages kills everything in testing. And the people who are answering this question down the chat, I don't know who you are, but you're not the donor I'm talking to. I can tell you in testing, longer almost always beats shorter. So I don't know if you're still chatting about it, but that's that.
People don't read the full letter anyways. It doesn't matter how long it is. So.
And some do. That's a whole other conversation point, right? I mean, but yes, I can tell you in testing, longer beats shorter almost every single time. Okay. Changing culture, conservative culture, heavily professional branded culture. That's definitely a you problem. That's not a donor problem. Do you know what I mean? Like they're not interested in that kind of stuff. totally speaking. Our job is to create materials that they are interested in, that's about what they can make possible, and for them to feel really good about that, like they're a part of the conversation. If you want to exclude your donors through your culture, through your professionalism, that's your prerogative. And I see it again, and I just look at my mother-in-law's mailbox. That's charities feel like they need to be seen a certain way, sound a certain way, look a certain way. They got to wear the suit and tie. They got to use like big words all the time. Got to do this, got to do that. And you are just leaving people behind. So the culture problem, I can't answer. I like for my clients, I ask questions when someone rings my doorbell to sort of see if they understand what I am about and what we're trying to do here. And if I sense they don't know us from a hole in the wall, then I usually don't work with them, because I'm not interested in that kind of stuff, because it doesn't work. And I want to do work. I want to do stuff that your donors can get involved with and give to and feel good about.
Do you have anything to add, Rachel?
Yeah, I would say that, there's always testing. There's talking about and showing that there's a lot of research that goes into this stuff, like the Philanthropy Center, like the people that are very swayed by scientific or that sort of logic, which I'm not, but I know some people are. So there's a ton of research that shows that this stuff works, and that emotional feeling giving type of compassionate, empathetic language actually works. So the best thing to do is to test it. Say, here, let's take a segment and send it with the CEO, and let's take one. And almost always when, I don't know, we've done that when you send something in an other, more emotional, more compassionate voice, it wins over the CEO boring letter every single time. So that's one way to do it.
I would just add that culturally, there's been a shift with generations where hierarchy used to be really important. And I think that nowadays people want to hear an authentic voice rather than the most important person or the highest paid person in the room. That's how I would talk about it a little bit. I've got somebody asking about an anthropomorphized gavel. I'm going to go find the beep beep truck. You guys can answer maybe quite envelope question that Charlotte has here.
Oh, I didn't see this answer.
Oh, Charlotte is.
That's great.
Yeah, that's in chat. I'm trying to get the questions over there. Go ahead.
Yeah. So Charlotte brought up a question about just the plain white envelope, and this idea that we do keep saying that, oh, the plain white envelope works the best. So why do we bother sending anything else?
It's a good question. We do work with clients and charities in the UK and Australia and across North America. And some of our colleagues at agencies have tested it so much and so often, they don't bother anymore. They know that an oversized envelope with just a logo and return address is always going to win. So again, I know from a creative point of view, for some of our agencies we help out with, we don't even design the other envelope because there's nothing to design. So they just know the test is so often. What's the point in trying to beat it? We just know more often than not that's what's going to work, because it doesn't tell you anything. It could be anything. If a donor cares about you because you tell them great stories and they feel good about the giving, they're going to open it anyways. They don't need to trick them into the other envelope. So that's some of the kind of thinking around it. So whenever, as a designer, whenever I design a new pack, the first envelope I design is just an oversized envelope with just a logo and return address, nothing else. But I'm creative and I like to also play with that. I give myself space to think, is there a really good tagline, a visual tagline or a written tagline or something that I can use that is intriguing or just kind of gets a donor maybe laughing, or I always think like singing a song or completing a phrase. These are little things I can use to pull someone in.
Yeah, totally. I would.
Yeah, go ahead. I was just going to pull up the Holy Beep truck, and there are also examples. I'm sorry, I know that's not quite the right name, but
are we talking about anthropomorphizing here?
Yes, we're talking about anthropomorphizing. So in the Agents of Good blog, so this is one of the several things that they have done, but you did something for the food truck, and the letter was the future food truck. I loved this, John. I loved this. And I think you Second Harvest or whoever it was got a good response from this, no?
Oh yeah, absolutely. They more than raised enough for the truck. Yeah, which was $65,000 because they had a matching gift as well on the table. So yeah, it did extremely well because we just use such an unexpected voice, and that's the idea. Is there are lots of voices available to you, and we decided to use this truck, and the truck had its own dream about being something more than delivering TVs and tchotchkes to for profit around the world. They want to have it. They had a deeper hope and dream for themselves, and the donor could help them achieve their goal, right? Which is funny, but so interesting. The storytelling becomes very easy to read and engaging and fun and entertaining, but also feels good. I know I'm actually doing something for good. So
Yeah. And can you just address I love how you guys also put the sort of full price with, what does it say? I'll buy the other half of the truck. I guess this is a half price. Talk about how you came up with that, and what response, what resistance was there from the organization, if any?
Yeah, just quickly, if we know, I always just, if you know exactly how much you need to raise, you have a specific goal. Sometimes putting on the reply form, you may have someone on your file who could actually give you that amount. Often we don't know. Sometimes just like we just need general funding because it's ongoing. But in a case like this, where you knew exactly how much, it's a little thing that does at least raise average gifts. People are like, $65,000, good one. I can't do that, but I can give you more than the $50 I usually give you. I certainly don't want to leave our questions unread over here. If you so people feel like they're getting things answered.
Yeah. Somebody raised their hand. Go ahead. It was Ephraim, but I'll have to find him. Anyways,
okay. So we've talked a little, I think, Nigel, we've probably answered your question. So we'll jump on to Kim, which you'll love this, John, asks if lumpy mail is still effective.
Was it ever not effective? I mean,
no, is it still effective?
we're like cats, aren't we, humans? We can't help ourselves but be like, we're enticed, and what's going on here. We're inquisitive, and whenever you can introduce moments of like, ooh, what's happening, or what's going on here, and I need to find out, I can't help myself. Adding lumpy things inside your mail pack is one way. I'm sure all three of us and people on this call have seen pens, paper clips, tea bags, pencils, little dimes. Everyone knows that dime pack, that everyone, or nickel pack, everyone hates, but there's a reason why they do it. These things do work. So introduce something in your pack that won't get stopped by the post office. So be cautious, or won't tear your envelope open when it goes to the sorting center, which is important to also acknowledge. It's cool to put something in just, how I feel something here, and what is it? So yes, puffy mail always has worked and will always work.
Yeah. I think probably most people on this call might know this as well, but I would just say that the issue comes when you're using the lumpy, gimmicky stuff for your prospecting to try and get new donors, and then you stop doing that, and then they only really gave because you were giving them something and they felt guilty. So I've definitely seen a lot more commentary lately about people getting really extra annoyed by that type of prospecting gimmick. But I think if you put something in the pack that's tied to your message inside and is meaningful, then absolutely.
I had a raised hand from Ephraim. Ephraim, you're not in the chat. We have some people in the chat. It's mysterious to me who's in the chat and who's not, but I'm going to allow you to talk. I can't see you. So there you are. Oh, there's your face. You hid. It's like the date who ghosted you. Okay.
Maybe it was an accidental raised hand.
Oh, I see. Maybe it was. All right.
Do you want me to? Okay, go ahead. Charlotte's wondering about me and Beth are competing for
no, go.
So Charlotte says, I feel like I'm on top of communications with my existing donors, giving you credit, of course, John, but for Christmas campaign, purchasing names and addresses, so like a prospect appeal, and feeling unsure about how to connect with new people in a way that, gets them to open the letter.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes holidays a good time to do prospecting, by the way. what a scale you can afford. If you have a good holiday appeal from last year, worked really well, you could try adapting it for this year. Or if you're working on a good one, also you could just adapt it, just change some of the language. Again, new donors who've never heard of you. I see this Dale, my mother-in-law's mailbox all the time. She writes is good at writing notes now to me on everything, so I kind of can get an insight to her thinking. She's very eloquent about the idea that I would give these many organizations. I don't have time for a new one, but I also see her give to new ones anyways because she thinks she's given to them before, or she thinks she's a donor. So I think there's something in that. If you're an organization that your donor cares about, or a cause or a mission that this potential donor cares about, they might open it. But again, you can try to trick them into the envelope if you want. You can use a very standard, boring envelope. Again, you can ask something provocative. I think you have to kind of lean on what you know. If it works for your donors, that's what you're trying to find more of, is people like them. If it works for your donors, it hopefully will work for your next new donor, right? So again, if you find something that works really well in your house program, then try using it tactically, technically, from a storytelling point of view, from an asking point of view, in your appeals for new donors.
Makes sense. Beth, I think this might be a good one for you. Dan was asking about the value of having board members sign letters of those they know.
So if you are doing the letter from that other voice, that is, you've already chosen who's going to be the voice of the letter, I would actually have them add what I would call, what we used to call lift letters. Do you guys still call them that? Which is where you had a little note go on it. And I don't know if I have any of these white ones here now, but I've got yellow. So if you haven't seen these are Post-its. These ones are actually from Office Depot. They are, you can see through them. So,
oh, cool.
So I used to have vellums made, vellum, and have them made. They come in white and other colors, but I have them write on this with a Sharpie, a fine Sharpie, and make the note that says something like, hi, Chris, we'd love to have you join us. Or Chris, this is a really important, or, Dana, this is really important to me. So you can buy these in a pack. I usually have a bunch of white ones. I use them on actually my Christmas cards. So they look in a pack like this. And they also come from the Post-it company. So they're called translucent Post-it notes. And having these available, you could have 2 of these if the person, but it's more effective to have something that's just a quick note. And then signed by a person they know. I'm down with that, but I would not have them sign the letter. They could write a note on the letter. They could write a note like this that covers part of the some part of it, but people are able to pull it off and see through. Mm-hmm. That's what I would do.
Yeah, I like that personal touch, but yeah.
That's right. So there's Carrie. Girl, I was looking for you. Now I know where you are. I'll just read this one. I've just joined an organization. Yeah, I saw that. I hope you're enjoying it. Had no real development program. Most donors are from P2P campaigns, which is great, but they're sometimes more connected to the person. How can we speak to them in our year-end letter and motivate them to give directly to us, even if there's no active P2P raise happening? Well, if only fundraisers crack this nut for events and other things, right?
Yeah.
Depending on your database, like if you have a lot of these P2P going on, it'd be great if you could refer back to why they gave, why they participated. I mean, the lowest form of this would be having their name, address, and asking them to join with, if you knew who their captain was, who invited them. But otherwise, it's your support in last April for the blah, blah-a-thon you need to have them next to the mission. So whatever you told them they were going to raise money for, a kennel, a new x-ray machine, whatever it is, you need to refer back to that. And the most important thing we do is remind people that we were able to accomplish the mission we asked them about to begin with. That's why thanking and reporting back is so key. But anyways, if you can do that, that would be the most effective way to bring them on, especially if you have a similar thrust. Most people are trying to raise unrestricted money. I get that. But if your person came to the organization, let's say I gave because Rachel asked, I'm often more connected to Rachel, and, let's pretend you were raising money for a disease for the Hangnail Society, I'm going to feel like, well, Rachel's had a hard time with hangnails, so that's what I really care about. So I think one problem is people just toss those folks into almost like a prospect group, or like with memorial donors, and it just isn't effective because you're not just giving them you're giving them too broad of a talk. You need to kind of funnel them back so you can start having them care about what you're doing through the avenue that they gave through before.
I know in my coaching, a common problem I see over and over again is organizations are trying to mail everybody. So like sometimes there's a massive cohort of these peer-to-peer or donors or event donors that they want to throw into their mailings because someone decided, well, the more people mail, the more money we're going to make. That is incorrect, friends. Actually, the less people you mail, probably the more money you're going to make because you're going to spend less and spend money on the right people are most likely going to give you money. So it's a very common question or talking point I was talking about, like, who are these people on your list? Where did they come from? And at the very least, segment them. So when you send 10,000 pieces to an event donor or peer-to-peer and you get one response, maybe we will leave them off next time. But the holidays is a good time to ask people. So it's capacity, it comes back to capacity. If you can afford to do it, fine, but don't water down the whole mailing to your best donors just for a bunch of people who aren't going to give you anything. Don't do it.
Yeah. And at least make sure you segment it so you can show, right, that
it was a waste of
P2P donors. Well, and this also, your goal is just to educate or stay in touch, whatever, but then that's a communications piece. It's not a fundraising piece, right? So just being clear and understand exactly. Thanks, John.
Yeah.
Yeah. Know what your intention. If you want to raise money from these people, that's probably not going to be the best way. Which brings us to the next question I saw on here, which, like, what's the biggest difference between direct mail going to house donors and acquisition? I know what I would say is not a heck of a lot. I don't know what you would say, John, but a lot of the stuff that I write lately, the acquisition appeal is often just a version of the donor letter going out. In fact, I mean, it seems like some organizations aren't even sticking with the set. It used to be you'd always have the same prospect appeal going out a control year after year, and you wouldn't change it until you need it. And now it seems a lot of organizations are just versioning their donor letter and sending a version of that so it's current and fresh. And maybe it's also just because they feel like it's a new story every time. I'm not sure. So I don't know that there's a ton of difference personally.
I mean, the biggest difference is you're trying to talk to people who maybe have never heard of you or just don't give it to you. They maybe don't care about you versus people who do. Do you know what I mean? And that you can use similar language because what you're trying to find is people in that audience that don't know about you and have never heard about you that may, just like you have your current donors, you need people like them too. So again, I think I was thinking from the outer envelope going in, you have to be even more cautious about what you put on envelope. Like this was an acquisition pack we did for Campfire Circle, and I didn't use a tagline. This was my outer envelope. I didn't want to use the organizational logo, but welcome to camp. What camp? Like, I don't, what is happening here? And even the stamp. So like I was intentional. This was a different envelope than the pack the donors got originally, and I was intentional because it didn't want to give it too much away, but I still want to make it provocative. So you have to think about. I'm trying to talk to people who maybe have never heard of me, don't know anything about me, don't give it to me, maybe probably, and how can I get them invested in or interested maybe in my mission and cause? So the big question.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can I pop over for the people who still want to write the questions in the webinar chat? But in the US, Giving Tuesday is November 28th. We can raise a good amount of money this day. Becky Honeywell, I don't know your charity, but good for you. Should our year end, presumably direct mail, come right after that?
Who wants to go first?
Not me.
Rach, go ahead.
Thanks. I don't know of any charities that would be mailing like their very first ask after that. I think if you had send something before and then like a follow-up or something afterwards, I think that would be fine. I do think you'd want to get something in front of your donors before that, but I mean, I know tons of organizers that are mailing after both emails and mail campaigns, but it's a continuation of an ongoing communication strategy that's been happening throughout the year. It's not just one mailing that they've done, and that's the only mailing that you're sending this year. It might not be a good idea to send that after November 28th.
I mean, people ask about Giving Tuesday all the time. Like, should we be active in Giving Tuesday or not? And I have friends who, in dark corners of pubs, talk about how much they hate Giving Tuesday. The reason I don't like Giving Tuesday is because charities use it as the case for support. It's Giving Tuesday. Give us money. That is not a provocative case for support. It's not going to work. So if you should have needs that will help meet your mission. That's what you talk about. And get a matching gift. Great. The other problem with it is that it can cannibalize, again, sorry, I shouldn't use that word either, Beth, my apologies. It can take away from the results of your holiday appeal, because you could be talking, even if you only do something digital for Giving Tuesday, it could be taking away gifts. Someone now generically gave you 25, or they may be giving you 500 for your DM appeal, but they just gave you a gift, right? Yeah. So people do these things blindly. I don't know a lot of organizations are spending time testing it properly, that we're going to make sure that if we're going to do something for Giving Tuesday, that we're going to be thoughtful about who's getting it and what we're asking for, and realize that it could be impact on their giving for our holiday appeal. So just be strategic about it. Doing both, mailing before or after Giving Tuesday is totally fine, but just be aware of what you're doing with some idea of what you're hoping to accomplish or prove, or what the outcome might be, or whatever.
That's why it's so important to sort of, even if you're not a super planful organization, to have a plan. When are communications going out? When are non-fundraising communications going out? Just sort of peppering people with all kinds of information doesn't help move the needle to make people want to give. I mean, for me, a great thing to do is to do some reporting right before this year end to make sure people understand that they've made a difference with their gift that came in last year. It's a broken record for me. I'm just going to, somebody mentioned this in a comment in response, and I think it's philosophically an important thing for people to understand. Sadly, our supporters don't think about us as much as we do. True, so important for us to understand that we think we're the center. We do great work. We think we're kind of the center of a donor's universe. The other thing it made me think of is donors do not think the way we do, and putting our ideas forward. This came up a little bit with the mail. I don't read 4-page letters, but it's really not what I do. It's what the donors that you have in your universe do, and testing is a way to reveal more of that.
Totally. And I did see also there was some great comments about even a 4-page letter just means you can use bigger font, smaller margin, bigger margins, make it more readable. You can add a bit more emotive content instead of all the facts. Like, there's a lot of reasons that longer might do better.
Can we talk about 14.2? Go ahead, John. But
so much. Like, even with our own clients, sometimes I have to remind people there is really no room for your subjective opinion in this conversation we're having, because this isn't based on what you like or don't like. And I'd say with me too, what I like and don't like doesn't play into my work. I have to do what works, and you have to know what works. That means you do things like this. You join on little sessions like this, and you go to conferences and you read everything you get your hands on. I obsess over this stuff. I read everything I possibly can, talk to everyone I know to figure out what's working and what's not working, because that's all that matters. What you think about it, that makes, and I have to remind my own clients, I love you and appreciate you, but I don't care. I don't care what you think about this, because that's not relevant here in this conversation.
Are you off the high horse now?
We got lots of like direct mail specific questions. So like,
go.
Okay, keep going. We got all the time.
We're only an hour in, baby.
I mean, obviously, yes, a colored envelope is going to attract more. Have you done many colored envelopes, John?
Oh, yeah. I mean, basically, like I said, anything other than a white number 10 envelope, is going to work. Although just be aware that a lot of your donors have some level of visual impairments, and when you get into using colored envelopes with type on it, if I have some sort of visual impairment that relates to colors and that sort of thing. My friend at the Macular Society in the UK, they did this brilliant envelope that was glaringly red and sort of stood out like a sore thumb. But the people they were trying to attract didn't know what it was. They couldn't read anything. It basically was just like a black envelope to them. Do you know what I mean? So it's like you have to, so color envelopes, great idea. It stands out amongst the sea of white number envelopes. Just be aware of your donors and where they're at in their lives between arthritis and eyesight and intelligence or ability to read things, all those things. Just keep those things in mind.
I've worked with some organizations that have made the BRE a bright fluorescent color, or like had a different, well, they wanted to, but it gets it's not necessarily cost effective, but have a different color for each campaign. So you knew which one was coming in. Also a bright, ugly buck slip for lapsed donors to have them kind of see and notice that piece as they open their mail. So there's lots of fun you can have with color. Mm-hmm. What about specifying a dollar amount, your goal for your DM appeal? Do you think this is a good idea to mention this in direct mail campaign?
I mean, I know we all have opinions on this. I mean, what the goal is, yes. If I think Katie mentions this, if it's $1 million, I know I was working with a charity the other week, going through their appeal and stuff, and they were like, the problem was $1 million problem. It was thousands of kids. It was high and soaring costs of rent and this. It was like these really big, daunting, oh my God. You have to acknowledge that if I'm a $50 donor, whoa, I can't solve $1 million problems. So again, but you shouldn't be mailing me about a $1 million problem because I probably can't help you solve it. Right. So yes, if I have a $65,000 truck, no problem. My $100 loans can solve that all day long. But so you have to be aware, what is the problem? And if the problem is that big, then no, maybe probably don't say it's $1 million problem. Maybe don't have an actual target. But we use like programs all the time. This program, to run it every year, costs $70,000 for one staff member and some supplies. And that's a really good normal day in, day out offer for your donors. So don't give them a problem they cannot solve because they'll just walk away. It's too much for them.
Yeah.
I would also add that your budget shortfall is not a case for support.
That's not their problem.
Yeah.
It's not a part of making change, which is what donors want to do. Donors come to us and become more connected to us, especially when we're aligning with their values. And a lot of people just don't want to, we have a deficit or we need to raise X by December 31 with no actual change or impact happening. It's just not going to resonate.
Can I offer, however?
Yeah, absolutely.
Through the years, this shout out to my old boss, Steve Thomas. Through the years, Steve was very fond of thermometer packs, which we only whipped out pretty much at the end of the year. And what the messaging was, we're almost there. And it was in annual fund language, right? This is an ongoing, you're funding our general fund to do all the things we need to do. And we're almost there. You've been amazing. And we just need a little bit. That's a behavioral science, decision science thing that they're plugging into there, that we want to be that one to put them over the line. We do it on Facebook right now. We do it for our friends when they're fundraising for this and that. So if you flip it that way, and use a thermometer, even I love a good thermometer pack. It can really work. But no, just so we're not making enough money and running out of time, that is a you problem. That's your donors doing shit. That's not.
Yeah, totally.
So with Amy, I think this is a good question, but I also want to know, when you say members, Amy, I don't know where you could answer this, maybe. What members are you talking about? Donors, or do you have a membership as well as a donation? That's one of my questions. I was just looking for a book. Museum members. Great. I have a thought on this, but so you can't. So I don't know if you are Amy. If you've already created kind of a ladder of giving within your membership, so that you might have memberships that have a donation part or not. I was at the Vancouver Art Gallery, which is like a museum in America. So this is what we created so that there were sort of people giving $100 donation on top of whatever the membership was and laddering up from there. So I think you can. I think those work with special, what I would call special gifts, like a special project or a thing that you want to have people give to that kind of has a finite, either it's an actual resource thing, like we'd love to acquire this piece of art, or something that's a program. We want to make sure the kids program can keep running to ask. We're making, and I don't say we're making a special appeal, but I do say something around that. So we're in touch with you because we have a very special request, that kind of language, acknowledging that they've already perhaps given an annual gift, but we want to have you give an additional gift. And I've done this even, remember the economic downturn of whatever it was, 2008, when I was at United Way and we were trying to raise an extra 11 million. So coming back to people who were major gift donors and asking them to give another 10K, those kinds of, like, we have a compressed amount of time and a very specific need, those requests can work.
Absolutely. I don't think I have anything to add to that. Do you, John?
You answered pretty well, Beth.
Yeah. I don't know if I know how to pronounce this. Donetsky, I'm sorry, has a good question. Is there best practice for how to follow up on direct mail? So should it be via same channel? It's a good question.
I used to do that before there was email.
Yeah.
Email bumps.
Beth, go ahead.
I've done email bumps because they are cheaper, and often we've had both pieces of information to be able, so both an address and a email and the home address. I've also done with another piece of mail, more like a card, so it's perhaps something that you notice in the mailbox instead of follow up with a letter. And that's helped. Again, tracking really helps you understand whether those, tracking what you sent out, who it went to, and what the segment is really helpful to inform you for future.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, exactly.
And the only thing I would add is that, I mean, for holiday appeals or like early year renewals stuff, doing a reminder is pretty common. Our friends, in other parts of the world do waves of mailings. They'll do the initial appeal. That is really cumbersome and fulsome. And then they scale down, but they will do 2, 3, 4 reminders, sometimes through mail, sometimes with mail digital, sometimes just digital. These are things that are testable and tryable, see what works for you. But yeah, doing follow-ups is never a bad thing, because even we all know in real life, you ask your friend for a favor on Tuesday and by Thursday they haven't gone back to you. Well, if you don't ask them again, they've forgotten about it. So reminding them isn't a bad idea, is it? And they're like, oh yeah, the thing, I'm doing that. Good, the reminder worked. So doing reminders is good. Yeah.
Doesn't mean they're not your friend anymore.
Oh,
no.
Can I just jump in, because Karen had a follow-up or a question that relates to that, since we're on this topic, about just that content of reminder packs. Like, should they be different to the main appeal, or essentially the same as the main appeal with just a reminder on them? Which is another great question.
Yes.
They could be either, or I've done reminder packs that are just a quick little 1-page, one-sided, like this is the one time I would say you could do a 1-page letter. Hey, did you get that last letter I sent you? Just checking a follow-up, just like you would with a friend, right? A short little note, little text or something like that. But I have also seen people do the exact same mailing. They print it all at the same time and they literally just send it out again with a big old reminder stamp on it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Exact same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, or just even the same pack, like exactly the same. There's just no difference at all. So
that's a prospecting strategy too, right? Where you just send the same exact pack a couple of weeks apart.
Yeah, or some sort of variation where you keep some of the same elements, like lift notes and such. But again, the letter, like Rach said, maybe is a little more from now from someone else. that you used in the first pack on a lift note, but now they're writing the letter. So like there's no one way to do this stuff. Again, the beauty of this work that we do is there's no definitives. There's no one way to do almost anything. So
Yeah. That's actually a really good point that you brought up, because that reminds me of like that idea I was writing about of perspectives. And I have definitely, for instance, with hospital foundations, have had the first letter be the emotional patient story, talking about how grateful they are for the care that they received, and then or just their experience. And then the reminder letter was from the doctor. So the doctor then wrote their perspective and what they needed and how the donors helped them to be able to treat this particular patient, as an example. So you can share different stories and different perspectives on the exact same story as you're moving through your waves.
Yeah, that's really excellent, because it gives also shifting perspectives, in that a voice might be more resonant with a different voice is more resonant with a donor than another. I also remind people I coach, there's always somebody whose dog ran away today. And how important you are, it doesn't matter, because something sort of important and tragic has happened. And so they're looking for that dog. So when people don't give, it isn't because they don't like you. It may be because they're in financial straits or some other idea, but a lot of times it's just your thing landed the wrong day. And so reminders, and not just a reminder, but an additional invitation to give, for me, is how you want to be thinking about, not a reminder to get the money from them. Nice. Interesting. Yeah. Go ahead, Rach.
Anonymous. Regarding acquisition mailings. Oh, okay. So if you're fundraising for a hospital, which has different specific projects each year, so you can't roll out the same cold appeal or prospect appeal, what's your advice on this? I get that. It's a bit demoralizing when you find a cold appeal that works, but you need to scrap it when the project's finished. I think if I could just quickly address this, is I think why some of the organizations I work with are doing that, just the adaptation of a donor appeal, or like if you get a package that works. So if you're already working on an appeal for your donors, you could just adapt that for the cold appeal, is one option. I don't know if you have any other thoughts.
yeah, like back in the day, I remember when I was in my early days at the agency at Stephen Thompson I worked at. I remember at one point going around and collecting all the control acquisition packs from all of the account teams, of which I think we had 30 or 40 accounts at that time, so different charities. And it was fascinating to find that almost all of them used a 9x6 craft envelope for the outer envelope with just a logo on it. And the inside, almost all of them were 4 pages or more in terms of copywriting. But what all the letters had in common was they all focused on mission, right? Because what we're trying to do is find people who are attracted to our mission. They believe values-wise in the same thing as we do. And so I think when you do acquisition around projects, specific things like that, it's easier in terms of like, here, this project costs $10,000. But again, organizationally, there's usually some sort of mission. There's a reason why you exist. And I think ideally, you're trying to find people who are attracted and believe in the same mission you do and want to get on board and help out. And that still works. Sometimes in acquisition, you find less of those kinds of people, but they're stronger for you in the long term because they weren't attracted by a specific project to fix a certain little problem. They're actually like, no, I believe that this thing also shouldn't exist in this world, and I'm on board with that. So it's so if you can develop a good, strong mission pack, it tends to work pretty well in acquisition.
Yeah, it's a really good point. Anything to add to that? Okay, we're getting down to the end here. Oh, and then another one just popped up.
That's okay. Keep asking.
Charlotte. Okay. Oh, so I did read this. So after a special event, a crowdfunder, she sent this amazing thank you video email and asked if people would kind of get back in touch with more information. And nobody answered. So what can she do to connect with event goers and make them into regular donors?
But her CTA was follow us. She said it right there. So did she just go back and look at how I mean,
also
My personal thing is the CTA of follow us. I mean, this is my personal opinion, but if you want donors to engage, there are different kinds of CTAs that can, even hit reply and tell me, which child you think is cutest or in the most need. I mean, I just think that when your CTA is a follow us, as a fundraiser, and not maybe quite as into communications, I feel like that's a wasted opportunity because you've just sent them over into, I don't know what, Twitter land or Facebook land, rather than having an actual engagement that has more alignment with who they are, what they care about within your organization, even asking them, tell me what resonates most about our work, or tell me what strikes your heart the most in our work, are better ways to have a more true engagement rather than follow us. Follow us is great. Your social media people probably like that, but I don't know what it's doing to create a true attachment and weaving of relationship with the organization.
Oh, it says she was just asking for permission to mail them something.
Permission. Oh, sorry. Okay.
Yeah. So it wasn't about social media, actual following them on social media. Again, it can happen. There's a lot of mechanisms in there. That's the thing I'm thinking. Like, there's a lot of things outside your control. It's not, again, maybe the fact you asked them, they weren't interested. It's how they were asked, what they thought they would get. I mean, it's like people want to put, clients say to us all the time, put a line for their email and phone number. Well, and I say, well, why are we asking for that? Well, so we can put them on our email list. I'm like, I don't want that. Why would I? So you assume your donor probably doesn't want that either. We all know we don't want more email, but if you have a good, compelling reason, aside from, well, we want your name so we can email the shit out of you. Well, okay, then I don't want that. But if you have a really good reason, because I'll keep you updated about your giving, I'll send you your tax receipt. Those are interesting reasons for me to actually give you my email address. So again, Charlotte, who knows? There's so many different moving pieces that could have been a couple mechanisms. But sorry you didn't get any responses. That sucks.
But you're still an awesome person.
There is.
Has nothing to do with you.
You're one up on all of us.
And I would just add too, sometimes we think video, it's too many things maybe going on in one email, right? Because like I do see clients where they're sending a fundraising ask, but then they're also including a video where you're being sent to another page to look at the video. And then as soon as, it's like that squirrel factor. As soon as you're sending someone away to do something, they forget so you just ask for one thing. If you want them to do one thing, you got to ask for one thing.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Oh, anonymous again. What are your opinions of Ugly Betty style appeals? I don't know if I'm familiar with this term, Ugly Betty.
Yeah, anonymous. Do you mean appeals that are messy? Or John's rubbing his hands together like a villain.
Anonymous, bring me the goods. Yes,
ugly is good. That's right. You have a pin, right? You sent us a pin.
Betty. I mean, this is. I wait for people to approach me at conferences with this kind of question. Anonymous has given up. He's left. He's like, okay, maybe.
No, I did that. Sorry.
Did you? I'm not going to answer that question because I need more context on what the question actually is.
Okay, but whoever anonymous was, if you can just do some clarification either in the chat or in the Q&A, that would be great. But John, correct me if I'm wrong. You had an envelope that had like it wasn't a real coffee stain. It was a printed coffee stain on it. Isn't that right?
That's correct. Yeah, that's right.
Can you elaborate? Well, I looked through the book for something.
Well, no, and the one that I would pull it up if I was that competent. I couldn't do something that quickly, but yeah, in the context of the storytelling, again, I do know that the more personal mail looks, the more like I send something to Rachel, the more likely Rachel's going to open it, because that's just how we work. Everything looks so generic and professional and commercial. The more you can move away from that. And some people consider it ugly. So I go out of my way to make my mailings look ugly. To design ugly is a special kind of art form that I do extremely well and try to teach other designers to do very well, because I don't want a piece to look like it was designed. Yeah, the more it doesn't look like I had my hands on it, the more money it raises. over and over again. So it's just a basic fact. So I try to do that in any way I possibly can. I don't want to look like something was designed or someone spent laborious hours over it in Photoshop. That's the worst thing in the world.
Mandy's saying here in the chat that she thought maybe it was like an invoice, but I don't know.
We don't know because Anonymous.
I don't know. We're not sure.
Anonymous had to go. Here's Anonymous, or a different Anonymous. I'm just going to add two more things from Anthropomorphic from the book. The hummingbird, Ruby the hummingbird, which was a great, also Ruby was the hummingbird who was able to write a letter. And you also had the most adorable fill the bag. Get it? Fill the bag. And I think one thing is our brains are created to notice what's not normal, what's new, because, we were always looking around for predators. And I think that's one thing that the creativity, but the humanity that you add is so enrapturing for donors.
I mean, yes. And I think there's room for fun in our fundraising. It doesn't always have to be scary, sad, angry. There's more to our emotional range for most of us than just that. And there is space for it in a personal sense. Again, if you are an uptight, tie-clipped, suit-wearing, professional charity, no, that's cool. If that's your jam, then that's fine to stay in that space. But I don't know about you guys, but I like to have conversations and relationships with people who are flawed and quirky and need help and love me, and donors like it too. We're all humans. So
yeah, agreed. Okay, Sarah, last year End Appeal, my organization used the theme of giving more. It did well. Would it be too much to use the same theme again? I can address this, but short answer is no. I think if you're using different stories, it absolutely I know a lot of organizations that use the same theme year after year in their year-end appeals, and they just have a different story and it just elaborates on the theme. If it worked well, absolutely. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. No, that's not right.
Well, if it's performing well, don't.
Before, donors aren't as into us as we like to think they are. I don't know you guys. I don't remember what I had for dinner last night, let alone last week. Do you know what I mean? Like, there is space. If there's an idea that worked, and I don't. I like to think about where I'm at now organizationally and what's going on in the world, and I lean into that and think there's space for some updating or new ideas. But if you have a good idea that works, don't feel like you have to leave it and never do it again. If it worked, pull it off, see if it needs some updating based on the factors of the real world. But if it worked before, then it can work again. Why would it not work again? So, yeah.
Agreed. Okay, Katie, would a mission pack work also for donor appeals, like articulating a vision rather than a problem to solve?
Definitely in legacy giving, absolutely. Like, the best legacy mailings are rooted in mission and vision, right, for the future. But your day-to-day donor, the mission is inherent. You know what I mean? It comes through in like I feel strongly about the nature getting trampled on out there. That's mission, but you're talking about an emotional manner. And we're going to try to raise $10,000 today to make sure that we can protect that thing over there, right? So it's the mission's inherent through the language and the values you share and stuff. You don't have to go like, your donors are aware of the mission because that's why they gave it to you in the first place. But it's inherent in the way you, right? Rachel, you can talk about this better than I can in terms of how you weave mission into storytelling, right?
Yeah, and I just would hesitate. There needs to be a problem to solve in all of it. It just might not be you can fund this program and help X number of kids today. But yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. The vision and the mission need to be woven throughout everything, and you're always engaging. And each appeal, for me, the examples or the stories that you're using are just illustrating how the giving impacts the work that you do and showing that a gift has impact, right? So yeah, a little a lot of the appeals that I write do not have a specific program to be funded or tangible ask, believe it or not. Like a lot of the stuff that I write is very mission-based, the donor focused appeals. So
remember, we talk sometimes about the emotion that's coming up from the letter. So in those ones, it can be, you don't want to lose, acres of the rainforest, or you want to make sure you keep parks available. So those sort of deeper connections to the mission and emotion that they stir are kind of what we want to bring up. So good. We got two more questions, maybe more. Don't be shy. We're here until we exhaust you.
Or vice versa.
Another anonymous. At Christmas time, would you send the reminder appeal to all those who've already given to the main appeal? If the reminder is more of a thank you for everything, with a Christmas card rather than an appeal letter? Well, there's a lot going on in this question.
It's a yes answer, isn't it? Yes.
Yeah, I think so. I also think that I would be tempted to, it's fine to send to everyone. My concern would be that there might be some people, if they haven't given, that you might want to just have a little more on the urgency factor. But I see lots of organizations sending appeals just like this, the Christmas appeal, the Christmas card in there, and definitely donors who have given recently are often more likely to give again. So I definitely would include them in there.
Sometimes it's hard to back them out too. Like the timing between that appeal and the reminder is so short. There's no space to back anyone out. So it's quite common. And I know people have tested it, and they found that actually they got second, like you just said, Rach, they got gifts from someone who just gave 2 weeks ago, because again, donors' attention span can be a bit short at times, or whatever. So absolutely. I think you just keep everyone. It's not going to hurt anything for the most part. And then some use a Christmas card or use language like, if you just gave it to us, thanks for that, but whatever, like if gifts may have crossed in the mail, sorry about that, like that kind of thing. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, totally. Okay, Brandy, right now you're the last question. How do you decide who to solicit? Some members of my team want us to mail to everyone who has ever donated or attended an event. Another awesome question.
Again, it's so common. Again, in my coaching work, it's one of the first things we tackle is like, who we trying to mail. It's a capacity question. If you can afford to mail everyone the best pack you possibly can, that's amazing. But usually you can't. You have a set budget for printing, you have a set budget for X, Y, and Z. And you really want to make sure you're getting the results of the people who are most likely going to give them to you. So again, the inclination, or there are people subjectively thinking, if the more people we mail, the more we're going to raise. No, the less people you mail, the more you're going to raise, especially if you send them the right pack. So no, sending as much mail to as many people as possible, that's called mass marketing. We are not doing mass marketing. We are doing direct response. And that means I want to appeal to my donors as directly and individually as possible. And that takes money and thoughtfulness.
That's right. Quality over quantity. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
As Ephraim said.
Do some research. And, even if they want you to do that the first time, but make sure, you segment very well. And then you see how they respond. And that's your data, right? Because some people only respond to data. If you have 0% response and you send that to that particular segment to 2,000 people, that's a no-brainer to not mail that segment again.
Yeah.
Ooh, QR codes. Who loves QR codes in this little group?
It's just a matter of time. So.
I do.
Well, that's why I was sorry. I know John's not a huge fan, but anyways.
Okay, let me tell you how I used them with one of my clients. They're trying to build their giving. This is a organization that does works with people, Jewish people who are experiencing infertility. And so they'd never mailed. They always did emails. They never seemed to kind of have year over year giving. So I had them do a direct mail appeal for the first time to everybody. And we got people who had given in the past, because of course there are some older donors who just like responding to that. And the next year, what we did is we put a QR code. If you want to make your gift right now, you can go click this and give right now online. And so we started to filter out who was giving by mail and who was giving online, and then could, more deftly work with them via email and continue some with things. I also suggest that everybody, this is not, of course, what your event program looks like, but I have them put a QR code. If you'd like to make a quick gift or take this home and have a gift, you can just click here and make your gift. It just gives an easy, less frictionless way to get them to give. So yeah. I like them.
Yeah, I think like anything. Sorry, go ahead.
No,
just before you speak on your opinion about it, I have seen them used a number of ways as well, like right on the reply form, even on the after the PS in the letter, always going to a donation form though, unless it's not an ask appeal, like a oh my gosh, why is the word not coming into my brain right now?
Engagement video.
Yes, where because you don't want to send them to a video if your goal is to get them to give, obviously. So, but I have seen people also send them to a page with more information about the story or a video or something if the intent is not to ask for a gift. Sorry, John, go ahead.
So we don't, yeah.
So yes, QR codes I think are delightful. I know that because industry wide, we believe after 2.5 or 3 years of clicking these at restaurants that now everyone's used to doing it all the time. I have yet to see a lot of definitive data that suggests that there is a massive uptake in this way of donors wanting to give to you, technologically speaking. The problem I have with it is people put these generic codes into their mail appeals on envelopes or wherever. If I'm a $500 donor and I click your QR, scan your QR code, and I go to a page that asks me for $25, this consultant's not very pleased with that result. That's not a really good thing unless it happen. It is possible to personalize your QR codes. In other words, do personalized QR codes for all your donors. It's not that difficult, and it's something that, for example, in Australia, they just do like they breathe. Great idea, brilliant. But the problem is everyone here, and I say here mostly North America, based on what I see most times, people are just going, let's just do one QR code and let donors scan that, and it's taken to somewhere generic that has nothing to do with who I am. So you're leaving money on the table, and I never want to do that. So yes and no. Love QR codes. Also hate them.
And also make sure that your QR code goes to a landing page that is designed to look like your appeal and has the same content and ask as your appeal. Don't be sending to your generic donation page on your website, because that also is a huge disconnect. You've just told them this great story. So again, QR code that goes to a landing page that continues the story and asks them to give, they can be very effective. Otherwise, no, you can send them off into no man's land. Lauren,
it's so important, and that's why we haven't talked about it, but doing your thank you that relates to your letter is so key. Write it at the same time and have it completely relate to that. It feels better to the donors.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, that's an interesting point you bring up, Beth, is because I always find it fascinating. Like, I forget what the question was earlier, but we sector-wise spend so much time, resources, energy on the ask, and so little on gratitude or impact. We spend an hour and a half now talking about asking. I know that's maybe how we frame this conversation, but even at conferences, everyone wants to talk about asking. But if we spend as much energy, or even a smidgen more energy on the other two parts about how to say thank you effectively and investing in really good impact, reporting on what we did with donor gifts, a lot of these questions people are asking wouldn't really be questions because donors would love to give to you again. Ask me tomorrow. I'm absolutely happy to give it to you again. So anyways, your thought of thanking just.
No, I'm glad you segued into that, because we will have another session for, I'll at least let my newsletter readers know that we're going to have another session, I think on the 18th, all about gratitude with somebody called Jen Love, which I think John and Rachel know. As John's partners, Agents of Good. And we're also going to have another one just about email and everything related to email and asking with Ephraim. So we're going to cover that because that is where so many nonprofits fall down. And I'm just going to say this, it's not closing the loop on the current gift, it's extending your hand for a handshake on the next gift. So
Yes.
Thanks. Well said. All right. Woo, we got some more.
People are getting on. They're like, I want to get in.
Get fired up again.
Yeah. Lauren, what are your thoughts on asking individuals who gave once this year, maybe in an event, to become a monthly donor in the year-end appeal? Or should you stick with a dollar amount? Another great question.
Another great question with no definitive answer. We will all have different answers based on our different experiences. I do know from my friends and colleagues internationally and from our own work that if you're asking what are you going to give? If you're asking me for a single gift in the appeal and you also ask me for a monthly gift and a single gift on a reply form, you could lose me. In other words, I may not give anything, or I may give you a monthly gift, but you don't know how many single gifts you just lost because you weren't testing it. I have in mind there are certain times of year where you can introduce monthly giving in a generic sense without much of a case, just like this is also, you can also give this way too. Holidays is one of those times. Sometimes the urban renewal is the time to do it. But generally speaking, if I'm asking you for a single gift to do X in the appeal, that's the only thing I want to put in the reply form. And again, I know from testing point of view, that tends to be the most effective, but as Rachel is dying to tell you, not always.
What? I don't know what you're referring to. I've worked with a lot of organizations who ask for both in every appeal. Absolutely. I was just going to say though, because it stuck to me that you said maybe in an event that they may not be very direct mail responsive to begin with, but also one of the orgs I worked at found a lot of success in asking to become a monthly donor, like only a couple of weeks after that first gift at the event or a lottery purchase. So in some ways you might think about that for like next year, is going to your event donors not too long after they made their gift and asking if they'd consider monthly at that time, because now year end, I don't know when your event was, but I guess this could be any time throughout the year, but a lot of it has to do with recency. And when you're close to when you gave and those feelings that you were feeling when you first gave, you may be more inclined to sign up to monthly versus just getting a letter at the end of the year. So
can I ask you too, there used to be sort of a rule that donors were would be extremely likely to give 6 weeks after their last gift. So actually, have you heard of that?
Yeah, I haven't, but I know like at the SPCA they were doing that, and then this is when they found that asking even sooner after like a lottery gift, and they had a big uptick in the number of people.
The thing in there though is again that cycle that we all know very well, that like if I ask for example, let me share an example. There's a charity I love. I'm a monthly donor to the Redwood. They do a special appeals for the year that they send to me as a monthly donor. In the summertime, they have a summer fun campaign, and they're raising money so kids can have barbecues in the park and go to the movies and do all the shit kids should be doing anyways, right? And so every year I always give to it. And this year I gave $250. Literally within a couple of days, I got a beautiful card that Abby took the time just to write, John, you're amazing donor to us. Thank you so much. We got your $250. We know the kids cannot wait for this pizza party, which I know is a big thing for you. Thank you so much. They clipped my receipt onto the card. Abby could have called. They still haven't done it. One day I hope they do. She could have called me that afternoon and I would have given her $250 again. Giving feels good.
Yes.
I give, I feel good. When Dale gives, she feels good. Our job is to make sure our donors feel good about their giving. And if we do that, like Rachel suggested, there is no timeline. If you can effectively show gratitude, real genuine gratitude, like with human feelings and shit, and tell me what you did with my gift, which is what I wanted anyways, I'm primed. My brain, I'm primed. I want to feel good. Giving feels amazing. So there's no like, I have to now wait for 2 months before I can ask the donor to give. That's ridiculous thinking to me. It makes no sense.
I also just want to address, I have a client who is thinking about trying to shift one-time donors to monthly donors and doing it as a year-end appeal. I'm suggesting she not do that. I'm suggesting she go ahead and ask for the usual year-end gift. They're kind of new, so they don't have usual, and move trying to switch people. And I don't think everybody wants to become a monthly donor, but to monthly giving in the spring, where you're not losing the money at the end of the year. But if you haven't, Erica Wasdorp is amazing human who's really truly a guru on monthly giving. The best time to ask for an increase in monthly gifts is in September. She's got all sorts of great information there. Monthly giving does help, even out. I think younger cohorts it's very natural for them to consider a monthly gift along with other things they pay off monthly, but it doesn't mean that every donor you have will want to switch to monthly giving. So I would just caution on, trying to get people to become monthly donors. I just want you to think about what you're saying there. Inviting them to become monthly donors, if it's better for them, rather better for the organization, is the tact you for sure want to take. It's not just from an organizational point of view. You want that's going to convince people.
Mm-hmm. So. Great. And I did just see Lauren had followed up saying that the major fundraising event is in October. So to me, that's pretty close to the time, year end. I would say that mailing them again or getting in contact with them again is not too soon, personally.
Especially because in North America, there is just Canadian Thanksgiving is coming up, but for American Thanksgiving, that idea of giving, sharing, all that is coming up and is very prevalent in everything we see in types of media. So I think it is effective to invite them.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's testable. I mean, try using the phone and spend some time calling a bunch and see what happens. Try mailing a bunch and see what happens. It's a very testable idea. Try 2 weeks after the event, try 4 weeks after the event, and see what you find out. It's a very testable idea.
John, one question nobody's asked: what total number do you need to have an effective test? Like if I only have 500 donors and I A/B test them on something, will that be enough to give me an answer on one thing, or do I really need to have like 2,000 people that I'm testing on? Same with you, Rachel. I don't know.
Yeah, Rachel, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it's so you can at least get at least 100 responses. Like it's not statistically valid unless you're generating at least 100 responses. In other words, if you're only asking 500 people, you may not that'd be a 5% response rate. So that's not impossible, but that's generally the rule of thumb. Is as long as you have at least 100 responses, then you can statistically draw some conclusions from it.
Yeah, that's what I was taught as well. So in prospecting, if you're going to get less than 1%, you need to send it to a segment of donors or potential donors that you're going to at least get 100 responses for sure. Okay. Oh, back to prospecting. Look at that. What kind of language to use? They've never donated. They know nothing about us or our mission. And most important, they already donate to a lot of organizations. That's a big, challenging question to answer.
Back to my example of Charlotte that I used earlier, whenever I looked through those mail packs from many years ago, the language is always around like we have amazing donors like you who are already doing this. And we believe this is something you care about too. Mission. So that was the idea. It's like, you're already in with us. We know you care about children in jail. We know you care about whatever, cats getting run over. We know you care about, and like, do what we know you want to do anyways, which is make sure that no more cats get run over. So it was just kind of a built-in assumption that this was a caring human being we were talking to.
Yeah, exactly. And you tell them about your organization in the pack, right? So that's where the envelope is so key in prospect packs too, right? Because you need something for them to get it open. Oh, you muted yourself.
Yeah, I had to cough. Our friend Anonymous, or one of the many Anonymi, are back. Yeah, so I really truly believe, Anonymous, and all of you, that a thank you letter needs to be a thank you letter. Just gratitude, just connect to mission, just that. this is not the time to multitask by asking them for a different gift or to make an upgrade or to consider a gift in a, what is it, a legacy gift in will or something like that. I just, yeah, you don't need, if you're not willing to spend another 60 or even $1 on a separate letter, then I think you might be in the wrong business, because you just need to be thanking 100%.
Anybody else? I have put sometimes I've put a like a quick little, if you'd like more info on legacy giving or interested in monthly giving or a connect with us, kind of just a really soft in the PS. I've done it before. I totally was, schooled in that way of thinking as well, but I also have been convinced to put it into PSs when I've been writing, just as the really soft kind of, you already care about us, so did you know, or would you like some more info? Not really even would you like some more, it's just really like, if you're interested, get in touch, here's the contact name and info of the person you could get in touch with, sort of thing is what I've done.
Yeah, we've done like just simple buck slips. A buck slip is just usually just that, looks like a dollar bill. Buck slip. That just talks about like, if there's something, conversation you want to have. Hi, I'm Susan. I'm the person you want to call and talk to about it. And this is another way you can give to us if you wish, and we're always happy to talk about it. So you're planting a seed, but agreed with all of us that in the PS, thank you letter, just let the thank you letter be the thank you letter. That's what it's there for. Just let it do that.
Mm-hmm. Doing surveys to connect with donors who you can reveal might be great prospects for doing legacy giving is very effective. And you might be able to Google around to get some of that. But at our university, they were very, very effective at surfacing things by having, sort of narrative answers as well as quantitative answers. And I think that is a good way to engage, gather information, where donors have a longer time to get deeper into conversation in a survey format.
Mm-hmm. That's great. Another thank you letter question. Should we ask for another gift in the thank you letter? Spoiler alert, my organization has done this forever, raised about $1,500 each year. And last year I stopped doing it. I still get ugly looks. I personally wouldn't. I mean, I think we've all said enough to say I wouldn't.
I bet you're not getting ugly looks from the donors, just saying.
How have you tackled the issue, Karen, how have you tackled the issue of asking beneficiaries within the appeal? You get pushback. We can't ask people in need of our services to then donate to the services. I don't know that I've ever I don't think I've ever written to people who are actually using the services that I know of.
I know I'm sorry, Beth. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'll say it in a minute.
Who works at the Macular Society, they know that almost a large chunk of their donors it's like Huntington Society, same thing. Some of these organizations that are kind of more health-based, especially, donors are beneficiaries of the actual cause itself. So it's not that strange, but there's sometimes like a balance of like familiarity with things, like how like close are they to what we're doing, and how much baseball is safe and not safe. That's kind of a bit of the question. But absolutely, if people are using your services, they're probably grateful for it. If you're doing a half decent job, why would you take away the opportunity for them to give to you because they're being helped by it? Like, right?
Again, I was going to say it sort of depends on the type of beneficiary, right? Like I got an ask from the Toronto SPCA, right? Whereas domestic violence, maybe not so much, right?
I was thinking food banks in my head for some reason. So I was like,
so if you, Karen Bolton, had more information about the type of beneficiary, that could help. But I think the beneficiaries need to be either they're using their services and they have means and they sort of have their own empowered standing, I would say, right?
Yeah. or beneficiaries who like the patient, grateful patients.
Yes, that's right.
People who have benefited and have moved on. Yes, I know we don't like to use
They
that.
are grateful. Why, you don't like quotes? You don't like grateful? You don't like patience? What is it?
Are they grateful though? I mean, are we assuming they're grateful? I don't know about you guys, but the hospital, that's a whole other. Let's not assume they're grateful, because a lot of them are not, and we're assuming they are.
I think we're hoping they're going to be grateful. I definitely had one of those that bombed once.
Well, Pete. However, the reality is it's probably not going to happen. Anyway, sorry.
Charlotte.
Katie Jacobiak. Grateful patients is what we call when we mail to people who've received service at a hospital. But of course, we're thinking about privacy and all that as well. So we're not just mailing everybody.
Yeah. Charlotte, if a prospect responds with a gift, should they get a phone call right after as a thank you, or after the follow-up DM? A new ask for the same purpose sent about 4 weeks after the thank you letter for the initial gift. When should we call them?
Oh my God, calling is so effective.
Yeah, but this is the brand new donor. Would you call them right away after a new prospect appeal?
Yes. Calling, what I'm trying to remember all the details, but calling within 90 days of a gift, well, calling within a week of the gift, especially if it's not a staff member, will increase the speed of their next gift and the amount of their next gift by, on average, 43%. Bloomerang did the research about picking up and calling a donor within 90 days of their gift, gives something like a 50% increase in their following gift on average. I can pull up the data, but yes, calling is very effective, especially when it's not staff, but even if it is staff.
Yeah, calling is great. Maybe you can't call everyone, but yes, if you can take the time to call, I mean, don't you want to know why they give it to you anyways in the first place? So, yeah, calling is great. The only thing I know, based on like conversations with fundraisers, are my pal Frankie worked at UNICEF in Italy. He had a donor love department, and he found that he only actually had to do two things. The two things he had to do was he had to send a handwritten thank you card, sort of like I showed already, within ideally 48 hours of getting a gift. And he'd call donors once a year, like on an anniversary of giving, or just for a birthday or that sort of thing. Those two things alone would see a 50% increase in the lifetime value of that donor, and a 30% increase in the retention of that donor. And so, again, I challenge my friends and colleagues around the world. We spend a lot of time talking about AI and technology and all this shiny stuff. These are really two low tech, simple things, and the best solutions tend to be simple and low tech, but take more effort and time to do, but are the most effective for keeping and retaining donors over and over again.
Yeah, and I know I worked at the SPCA, and they because it all depends on your capacity too, right? But they found it worked very well to actually hire an agency to do thank you calls. So they have an agency that does thank you calls for them, but it's worth it. And just a straight thank you. It's not a ask anything, and just they'll leave a message if they need to leave a message, because sometimes people just like to get that nice little thank you message on their voicemail. And it works really well to increase the likelihood of giving again for the next appeal.
So I'm just going to hit this research that I put in because not everybody can see the chat. Penelope Burke, this is one of the very well-known ones. A thank you call from a board member within 24 hours increases the likelihood of a second gift being 39% larger. Research from McConkey Johnston International, thanking quickly makes donors 4 times more likely to give again, a 400% increase in likelihood. Bloomerang, this is the one I mentioned, calling a first-time donor to say thank you 1 or more times in 90 days increases the retention rate, very important, up to 58%, and nearly doubles the amount of the next gift. And then Roger Craver had dug up calling to thank donors generated a 56% increase in first-year retention and a 72% increase in revenues. And I think that was from a PBS type drive. So
well done, Beth Ann Locke. Throwing some heavy stats around. I love it.
That's right. Stats.
Okay.
Data.
That's right. That's right. Well, we got 5 minutes left. We've got another anonymous and Charlotte, who's
I
our.
thought it was all they can ask. I thought this is an all you can ask.
It is. Well,
Too.
I might have to leave because I have a client at 11:15. 11:15.
Beth.
And weren't we going to give away something? How are we going to do that?
All right.
We'll have to get all the names together of everybody who came on live and we'll email them. How's that?
All right, fine. Yes, let's answer a couple last questions and call it a day.
Well, we only have two.
Anonymous again.
Well, it's not the same anonymous.
Would you put a BRE in a thank you letter? No ask. An old organization I used to work for did this, brought in $30K a year. I could say I would. Some people might not agree, but I think it's a grand idea for sure.
I used to do it. Yeah, I used to do that when I was at a hospital. So you can always make a gift. It's right here in your junk drawer.
Yeah. Maybe you just want to get in touch with us and tell us something. It's not really it's not an overt ask. You're just
That's right. That's right.
Option to get in touch. Yeah.
Good.
And Charlotte, I can't tell if this is all the same Charlotte, but thank you.
I think it says Norway Charlotte. I call her Norway Charlotte.
So you gave a gift, you got a call. When can I send you a new DM? When can I ask for monthly donations?
The best time to ask for a second gift is as soon as possible. Anecdotally speaking, as long as I was thanked for that first gift. So yes, Charlotte, I mean, a lot of people will tell you, especially with monthly giving, with the right donors, if a donor is giving you a single cash gift for the first time, they're potentially really good prospect for certain ones, for especially the size of the gift, for a monthly ask if you're making a really strategic, thoughtful, meaningful to me ask. So that's my quick answer to that question. As soon as possible.
Yeah, I would concur with that. Yeah, people think they need to wait a certain amount of time, but do you see how many emails we get? Do you remember? I don't remember. Oh my gosh. Can everybody else see that? That's hilarious.
Thank you, everyone, for 2 hours plus of your live spending it with the three of us, nerding out about direct mail and direct response and year-end fundraising. I think you will have a follow-up email from Beth with the link to this conversation that you can share. And I appreciate all of you so much, and good luck with
email. Can you give us your email?
Yes, my email is john@agentsofgood.org, and I'm a live human being. I will answer it, promise.
Rachel
at penwithapurpose.com.
Thank you so much for moderating and adding so much smarts. I really appreciate it. And for all of those who are new to me, I'm Beth Ann Locke, and my email is bethann, BETHANN, @The Fundraiser Coach. You'll be getting an email from me anyways with the link, so you can always just hit reply and I will have a chit chat with you. Thank you so much for joining us.